Welcome to Empowerment Radio. My name is Dr. Friedemann, and I'm so glad that you decided to join me. Empowerment Radio is about giving you the insights, tools, and solutions to address some of the most challenging aspects of our daily lives. So sit back, relax, and empower yourself. Welcome to Empowerment Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Friedemann. And as always on Empowerment Radio, I like to talk about things that empower us and things that disempower us. And one of the things that probably disempowers most of us is fear and anxiety. Now, I think in our country right now, we are pretty divided, right? I mean, they're the lefts and the rights, they're the mask wearers and the non-mask wearers, the believers in COVID and those that are not believing. But one thing that really unites all of us is the emotion, fear, and anxiety, which I think so many people are struggling with. It's certainly the number of people that are on medication or have been diagnosed or trying to self-medicate since 2020 has only skyrocketed. Now, fear and anxiety is one of my favorite topics because I have been working with clients on helping them overcome fear and anxiety for almost 20 years. Plus, I had been struggling with fear and anxiety for over 10 years. So I think I know a little bit about fear and anxiety. And so today I wanted just to help you to get a better understanding of what fear and anxiety are and what you can do about it and why you don't have to be afraid of fear and anxiety. In fact, you don't really get anywhere if you're just beating on it, on these emotions, or trying to push them away, or to distract yourself from them, or somehow be afraid of them and feel like, all you can do is just to try to numb yourself out so that you don't have to feel anything. Because fear and anxiety are so powerful because they have a very powerful function for us. There is really an upside to fear and anxiety, and that's something I want to talk about while answering your questions. Now, the first question that I got frequently is a question about what is actually anxiety and where does it come from? Now, there are different perspectives on that, right? There is a perspective of the doctor, which I used to be, which basically is, okay, there is something happening in your brain, is some kind of you could call it misfiring, or it's an imbalance of your neurotransmitters, or the amygdala, this little tiny part of the midbrain is on constant on switch place. It just fires all the time, and all nice and good and right, but also not very empowering. Because, you feel like really you're a victim somehow of your body. And it doesn't really take into the equation that maybe there is some other and more important function to fear and anxiety than just scrambling our mind and making us feel like our whole life is paralyzed by it. Now, I see fear and anxiety more from the mind place. And I wish someone would have told me that when I was struggling with fear and anxiety. And what I mean with the mind place is that there is the conscious mind, our intellectual mind. And that's not really where the emotions come from, because that's more where we are solving problems and do math calculations. And it's not a very, feeling-based part of the mind. And certainly you would love to reason yourself out of anxiety if you could. So it's not something we are deciding consciously, let's be a little anxious. It's more coming from that deeper part of the mind, the subconscious mind. And that deeper part of the mind is where, the anxiety, our emotions, but also our memories and our beliefs and all this more, important fundamental stuff of ourselves is stored and also is operated from. Now, fear and anxiety come from the subconscious, not as, okay, let's just put a little bit of these emotions into the mix, but the subconscious creates fear and anxiety more as a symptom than as a problem. And what I mean with that is, let's say the analogy is physical pain. So if you have physical pain, you are not right away just, taking a painkiller, for days and telling yourself, well, I need to get rid of this pain. You're hopefully wondering, what does this pain mean? Why do I have pain in my stomach or in my chest? Or maybe when you step on your foot and all of a sudden you have pain, did you break something, or do you have a gastritis, or is there maybe something, with your heart? You wonder, you investigate. Well, that's exactly what we need to do with fear and anxiety, because fear and anxiety are sent out as a message from the subconscious because there is something like a wound or an imbalance on that deeper level going on. Let's say, for example, you were, as a child, moving around a lot. Your parents were in the military, and so you had to be shipped away, often from different homes, different schools, and that change was quite taxing for you because you had to always get used to new people, and then you had to say goodbye to them after, maybe a year or two. So all of that was really difficult for you, and in your mind, your subconscious, you may have created the idea that change is bad. And maybe there were schools and kids that were not very nice. And so then there is the idea that, well, new people should be avoided because they're not really nice. And maybe one day in school you were made fun of because you were singing and you were not necessarily really in tune, and everyone was laughing and you were blushing, and then you told yourself, I will never sing in public again. And so being visible is all of a sudden seen by your subconscious as something really to be avoided. So you have these filters, these ideas, these beliefs on a subconscious level that then make you anxious. Then when you, for example, have to change your job, or when you are out and having to meet new people, or it makes you never want to leave your neighborhood or your apartment because all of those things are just seen from a subconscious place as scary. And you could be diagnosed with social anxiety. But what's really going on is that your subconscious simply has still this old filter system that interprets anything that could potentially look like whatever you went through in your childhood as dangerous and therefore scary. So anxiety is ultimately a misinterpretation or distortion of yourself and reality on a subconscious level. And so what you need to do is not to fight the anxiety, but what you really need to do is to change the filters on the subconscious level, so that you can see yourself more clearly, and that you can also look at the world more from the adult perspective and not from whatever the subconscious had been programmed as early in your life. And that's exactly what I'm doing in my work with clients worldwide since all those years. And it is quite transformational. And I'll definitely going to talk more about that. Now, a question that also came up is the physical aspect of fear and anxiety. So when you have anxiety and you are just sweating and shaking, and you're breathing fast, and your heart is pounding, and your whole body is tingling, you're feeling, oh my God, I am, in a doom's place right now. What do I do? How do I get out of this? Well, one of the things that you can do is to realize that what happens is that your sympathetic nervous system is stimulated by the release of stress hormones that anxiety naturally causes. So adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, all this stuff is pumped into your body to get you ready to fight or flight or freeze, just to defend yourself. And that's why your heart is pounding, and your whole system, your whole muscles feel very tense and tight. So to counter that, you want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is, that part of the autonomic nervous system, which is about relaxing and digesting and healing. And so to tone down the sympathetic, you are amping up the parasympathetic. And there are very simple things to do that. For example, you can run cold water over your wrists or your hands. And that automatically stimulates the main nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the vagus nerve. Or you can do deep diaphragmatic breathing, where you really inhale and you push your belly out on the inhale, and the exhale, you pull your belly back. Touching your upper lips like this, just tapping on your upper lips with your index finger and your middle finger, just rapidly. There are so many nerve endings that stimulate the vagus nerve. Or chanting, singing out loud, humming, chanting Om. All of those have been actually in research shown to activate that calming parasympathetic nervous system, including walking barefoot in the grass, ideally, or on the earth. So those things can be very helpful just to calm down your nervous system, and therefore also calm down these physical symptoms. Well, when we come back, I will also answer a question about mind racing. What are we doing when our mind is just galloping away with us and not in a good direction? So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Hi, Dr. Friedemann here. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about fear and anxiety, here you'll find guided meditations, webinars, and interviews with some of the most renowned experts in the field of empowerment. Delve into the over 230 videos and more to come every week.